Greetings all, it is Max, and we're back, and doing a video here I kinda really don't want to do, but kinda have to do, and I'm still formulating ideas and putting pieces together about what I see that's going on, and man, um, not looking too positive about things. I just want to say that I hope that some of the people that have listened to me over the last couple of years have put some of my suggestions and researched things maybe and looked for what the truth was and maybe tried to prepare a little bit for the times that we find ourselves in now. Okay, the time for prep is done, right? The whole ball of wax has started. And I don't know that means, we're not in your 7-year tribulation or whatever yet. But I remember talking about this with Jack about how far we think that we're off before we're really going to start seeing this. And we're figuring about 10, 15 years based on the rate that things were going. Well, no, we're kind of starting into the where you can actually visibly see what the tribulation is going to be. And it's coming very, very fast. And it's because people aren't doing anything about anything. And we just went through 2 years of a nonsense, fictional disease, virus, fraud, whatever it was, right? And nothing happened. People didn't do anything. Now, they were, of course, rioting in Britain and rioting in Europe and England and all these places. But, guys, protests don't do anything. Complaining on the internet doesn't do anything. It wasn't until Kazakhstan started burning the place down and Canadians, decided they're going to get in their trucks and shut down their town. And there are some other things happening around the world, too, around that same time, where they decided to back off on their little program because that wasn't expected. Or if it was expected, it was expected that when these things start, we'll end the program. And of course, in Europe, in these things where people were protesting for a long, long, long time, what good did it do? Nothing. Okay, it was America, because Americans have guns. And when Americans and Canadians kind of get together and start fighting the system, then they're like, okay, well, now we have to end it. And then what do? Have waiting in the wings. We've got a Cold War waiting in the wings. All right? It's not going to end. When the Cold War stops, there'll be something else. But I don't think the Cold War is going to stop. Not for a very, very, very long time. So anyway, we'll talk about some, of course, current events in Ukraine and all of these things, and make some predictions as far as where 2022 is going to be going, and you guys do with them what you will. Because, man, people bought into their Cooties virus, man. Didn't do nothing. Nothing. Doesn't give me exactly a whole lot of hope for the things that are going to be coming in the very near future. As long as they don't turn off the Netflix, people won't do anything. People won't do anything. So what's going on here? Has anyone heard about the truckers in D.C.? No, probably not. You really kind of have to search hard to find out anything about the truckers in D.C., but they're in D.C., and their version of protesting is just driving around. More power to you guys. What are you protesting? Cooties is over, man. We're warring with Russia now. What are you doing? Trucker convoy protest circles D.C. Beltway a couple of times, searching for something to protest. Now, this is an article, of course, from a very leftist rag, but they aren't wrong in the sense of what are you protesting? There isn't anything going on right now in America. So, yeah. No one is exactly clear what their demands are, but rabid Trump supporters. See, rabid Trump supporters. See, in America here, you got this freedom of speech. You can't discriminate race, color, creed, religion, person's belief systems, or whatever, unless it's Trump. There's people that like Trump. Now you're a bad person because of that. Remember, we were talking the other day about being anti-Ukrainian is a new thing. If you're an anti-Ukrainian, that would be you're a misinformation agent of Satan. If you liked Trump or if you don't want to be at war in Ukraine. The People's Convoy, which originated in Los Angeles, traversed the nation till it reached the Raceway in Hagerstown, Maryland, performed a couple of loops around the Beltway on Sunday to little noticeable effect. They plan to keep it going, they say, until their message is heard, though it's hard to tell exactly what their message is. Right, I don't know what their message is either. And I'm for more or less what they're doing. But they should be protesting any involvement in sanctions on Russia. Because you guys don't understand that just what business is it of ours if Russia has a conflict with one of their neighboring countries. And it's one thing for America, or say a neighboring country over there, to stop importing and exporting to Russia. Okay? That's one thing. But kicking them off of the international monetary trade system disallows Russia from doing business with any other country on that system. So just because America has a problem with Russia, they kick them off. And then all of the American companies also kicked Russia off their stuff. America shut down Russian businesses and all of these things. And that affects actual citizens of Russia, just people, regular, ordinary people. The oligarchs and Putin do not care. You're hurting the actual people over there. But it's all part of the plan, guys. It's all part of the plan. And that's all going to be happening right here in America. I guarantee it. Anyone out there who's thinking, yeah, I know that there's some of you older boomers out there who are like, yeah, well, we're going to go kick Putin in the butt. Rah, rah, sis, boom, bah. It ain't going to be so much fun when they're buddy-buddied up there with China and China closes all trade with America. Is it, guys? Because that's what's going to happen. All that manufacturing we sent over to China, all those jobs, all those companies we sent to China, that was a plan, guys. China allies with Russia and no more trade with America. America's an entire country of people who serve coffee for a living. We're just service industry. We don't manufacture anything. All those jobs and all that stuff, brand new plants built over there in China for making iPhones and computer chips and all this stuff. What do you think is going to happen to America when they're not sending boats over here full of, crappy toys and G.I. Joes and computer chips and stuff? What do you think is going to happen to America, guys? Anyone who's happy about sanctions on Russia. One positive note to that is some people are waking up because when you hit people in the pocketbook, they actually get a little spark. Canada had a bank run because of their trucker fiasco and closing down banks over there. And Bitcoin shot up. Guess what the number one country is for investing in Bitcoin in the last few weeks? Oh, Canada. So they got a little bit of sense. And with these sanctions, all these other countries that are part of the SWIFT system and doing what the SWIFT system effectively is how countries transfer funds back and forth to one another. And the funds have to be denominated, I believe, in US dollars as the reserve currency. You kick somebody off the SWIFT system, then these countries cannot do business with other countries. So Guess who else going to Bitcoin? Any country with any sense and any individual with any sense. So that is one good thing about this. Yeah, you got to hit people in the pocketbook, otherwise they just don't care. Otherwise, I'll take whatever Cootie Affects you want. I'll wear your mask. I'll do whatever. Don't turn off my Netflix. Flipping disgust me how useless Americans have been in the last 2 years. I know it's probably not the people who watch me, but it's everybody around me, everybody I talk to. In my town, I don't think I've talked to anybody I've one person, my direct boss. They don't say much of anything, but I know they don't like the jab. That's the only person. And I'm not exactly quiet about that sort of stuff either. So back to our truckers here. What are the truckers here doing? Nobody knows. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of people that are protesting. And what are you protesting? I don't know. But the media, of course, in America goes out of the way to call them Trump supporters and bigots and racists and stupid and blah, 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 blah. Money launderers, because apparently they're collecting donations, and then they say the person who is leading that is a felon fraudster, and just a whole bunch of garbage. The comments are the best part, where I've read through these, and a lot of these are actual people. They're not like bot people that they pay. And just the mindset of people who are lefties are like protesting everything all the time. But when somebody else protests something, they're like really happy when the cops beat them up and break their legs and things like this. Lefties are really sick in the head. Like really sick. Really sick. You'd think they'd be happy. I mean, I ain't got a problem for anybody standing up for what they believe in. Okay? If it's actually what they believe in and they're willing to sacrifice for it, right? People are willing to sacrifice for something that they believe in, regardless of what it is. Sure. But if it's a government-funded psyop and they're all just actors, that doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. The whole George Floyd deal, BLM deal, paid actors, paid to do all that stuff. Some people were sincere. They had the right idea. Like a few of them government buildings mysteriously, got they're building new buildings. We'll just say that. Just say that. What do Canadians and Americans do? They drive around in their trucks with flags. Why do you guys have flags on your trucks? Yeah, the Canadian flag's up there and the American flag's up there. The government's the one enslaving you and oppressing you and taking all your freedoms and all your rights away, and they want you to get lethally injected to have a job, and you're holding a flag? See, when I talk about this cognitive dissonance that people just don't even understand, do you understand how silly that looks? We want to fight the government. We want our freedoms. Why are you asking the government to give you your freedom? It's all I see on these protest speeches. Asking the government, asking, please, can I have my freedom? Please. The time for all that's done. It's all done, guys. All done. If you haven't made any of your preparations, you got a very, very short window to where, to move out of an area if you're not liking where you're at, to get your dependencies sort of shored up a little bit. Because before too long, you're kind of going to be stuck most likely where you're at without a huge effort and a huge cost of money. Remember I said, money is not evil. It allows you freedom. It allows you to have the ability to do things that if you didn't have money, you wouldn't be able to do, including help more people. We call it FU money. where I don't care what is going on over there because I got my stack of Bitcoin, and at the worst I could pack up and go and go someplace else and be fine, right? Take care of your debts and things like that so you don't have collectors hunting you down. And things like that are important. And the whole time here is about up. You thought the whole Cooties thing was odd, with a whole bunch of chaos all over the place. You just wait. You just wait. Oh, we're going to talk about what's going on in Ukraine. Oh, InfoWars. So, you guys probably aren't going to believe this. And I've verified it from multiple different sources. I will even link you the video of a guy who lives in Ukraine and talks all about this and tells you exactly what's actually going on in Ukraine. All right? So those Ukrainians, that if you're an anti-Ukrainian bigot, Trump supporter, right? If you're not supporting Ukraine, you know what's funny is they're not calling those bigoted Trump supporters. They're not calling them Nazis. Want to know why they're not calling them Nazis? Because the Ukrainian government is run by Nazis. Literally. Okay? You can search that anywhere. That part of their military and their structure and their government over there are literal neo-Nazis. Why is there such a big contention over in Ukraine? Because they had a legitimate government, 2014, and they were making deals. They wanted to be part of NATO. And rather than be part of NATO, Russia gave them a better deal, and the government was going to be allied with Russia and hang out with Russia, and everything was going to be fine. But America didn't like that, and so they went and did a coup and installed a puppet. So now you have an incredibly corrupt government over there that half the Ukrainian population does not like. They wanted to be part of Russia. So they've had a civil war sort of thing going all this time. But you know, America, we have to have all these Al-Qaeda types and ISIS types and neo-Nazi types. We love having them guys around. So they hire them to be part of the military. And these little Nazi guys don't like the Russian sympathizers, should we say. And it turns out, according to this guy right here, that the invasion was more of a liberation of the Russians that were in Ukraine. And actually, before they invaded, they allowed anybody to evacuate to Russia. But the Ukrainian government would only allow women and children to evacuate. I will link this video. This is on Gerald Salente's channel. It's the last video that he did, and it's been 4 days. I would assume that his channel has been locked for misinformation. So old Gerald probably won't be back for a few days. So as I was saying, good old Kazakhstan. Well, the first one, see, you know, I was talking about, I guess, Americans and Canadians, we think driving around in our truck holding a flag is going to do something. Well, the Kazakhstanian people, they took out all the bankers, took out all the military people. They disarmed the Russians when they came over. They took their country, threw their people out. And that was because they required a cooties jab in order to use banks. Okay. That gets noticed. This put an end to the whole cooties narrative and the mandates and everything. This put an end to it. So you can thank Kazakhstan. Not people driving around in trucks. And I say that, you know, it's nice. It's a good show of solidarity and good support, and I guess it's a good thing. But, oh man, people are just going to be laying down when the stuff really starts happening, okay? Things are really going to start happening, okay? Very fast. Very fast. As in like, oh, there's no more internet for 2 weeks. Oh, power's been out for 10 days. Oh, grocery store's been empty shelves for 2 weeks. Oh, I'm going to go grab an American flag and drive around in my truck and protest not having any food. Oh, we don't have any gasoline either. So around that same time, after this is after post Kazakhstan, Russia decided that they didn't want to do that either. They decided we're not going to have it. The only one that went through with all of their stuff would be Canada, and they had their little trucker rally or whatever. But that was the thing. It was in Kazakhstan. What it took, guys, is to do something unexpected. When people take things into their own hands, should we say. Okay? This whole thing of rah, rah, please give us our freedom, waving our flag, doesn't do shit. They don't care about that. They don't care about that. Complaining on the internet. They don't care. Okay? You start hauling bankers out into the street and disarming military people and taking your country, then they start caring. Because even if that's part of the expected narrative, that at least ends the operation that's going on. Even if they expect it, which I'm sure they expected it. It was probably only just a set amount of time before they knew people would take up sticks and stones and whatever they had in these places. I'm sure. And they had waiting right in the wings was Putin. Waiting right there. I was like, oh, not yet. You're going to go in after the Cooties narrative, Putin. You'll come in. We'll cut the money spigot and the money printer off. And then you can go in and then we'll have a Cold War. From one thing right into another. Nobody is protesting this stuff. Like any involvement whatsoever. If you don't protest this stuff now, it's only going to get worse. To the point where if you say anything at all positive about Russian or anything Russian. Oh, I really like Kharkov vodka. Well, you're off to the camp. You're off to the camp. And y'all think I'm kidding. I could bring up articles where in some places, Russians that live in their country, if they say something pro-Putin or something like that, they get a talking to, should we say. They get a talking to. This is the same thing as what happened in World War II with the Japanese in America. It's the same thing. Going on all over the place. We're going to have an East versus West. All right? We're going to have an East versus a West. Anyone who says anything pro-Russian at all whatsoever will be taken away. They will be silenced. Okay? They will be fired. Their bank accounts will be closed. If you're Ukrainian in America, they'll make statues of you. People will come leaving gift baskets at your door because that's what people are programmed to do. Oh, those freedom fighters in Ukraine. And there's nothing against the Ukrainian people, but there's no point in fighting over there. None. Russia is a very, very advanced, very big country, and half the people in Ukraine are Russian, and the other half are probably transplants that America and other countries have moved in, right? So there isn't any reason to fight. You surrender to make sure your infrastructure doesn't get blown up, and your citizens are okay. There's no reason to fight. But that's not part of the plan. Part of the plan is to have a months and months and months long war over in Ukraine that gradually is going to have more and more and more involvement from the United States. Then we'll have Oh, Russian hackers shut down a power plant. Russian hackers. Oh, Russian hackers will attack Wall Street. Monetary system wiped out. Oh, we need a central bank digital currency to take up the slack. The dollar, oh, we lost $150 trillion. We don't know what happened to it. The Russian hackers got it. We need a central bank digital currency to prevent that from happening again. We need a controlled internet to prevent and protect Americans from Russian hackers. We need to install a camera on every light post to try and catch Russian co-conspirators. Why do I say all this? Russia to disconnect from global internet on March 11th. Okay, this came out today, I think. It came out yesterday, March 7th. Russia is going the way of China. Instantly. There was no warning of this. Somebody explained to me how a government who is tied in with the rest of the world and the internet and kind of operates a lot like America does could in 4 days give notice and have everything ready to go to isolate Russia from the rest of the world and their internet. How could that happen if it was not planned 10 years in advance? How? Yet here they are. Here's the notice. No later than March 11th, all servers and domains must be transferred to a Russian zone. In addition, the detailed data on the network infrastructure of sites is being collected. So, anybody in Russia, any business in Russia that has any data anywhere stored on anything outside of Russia, they won't be able to access it after the 11th. I don't know if Amazon Web Services has servers in Russia. I would assume that they would, but if they didn't, that's like completely shutting the country down. Of course they planned this. Of course they planned this. You think they cooked this up a couple of weeks ago when they started to invade Ukraine? No. This was probably all started putting this plan through before Cooties. Okay? So you've got China isolated internet. You've got Russia isolated internet. Russian hackers. Russian bots, Russian this, Russian that. They've been blaming Russia for everything for 5 years at least. You don't think that was a setup? You don't think that's planned? So, Russia adopted legislation known as Sovereign Internet Law in 2019. Yeah, see, they already had it set up to shield the country from being cut off from foreign infrastructure. So, like, basically, like, what happened is just like Russia, they were thinking about banning Bitcoin, supposedly. No. They were making Bitcoin a standard by which that they're going to transact. I think China did the same thing. They're transacting in Bitcoin, or will be, or it's on the table. And it's made to look like these guys are on two different sides, right? America and Russia are two different sides. And they're playing some kind of 3D chess, right? Now, this is something you would do in a like a wartime situation where you're cutting off your access to the global internet as a protection measure against American hackers or Israeli hackers or whatever attacking their infrastructure. But they're all on the same team. Everybody's on the same team. But that's what it's made to look like. Okay? At the end of the day, it's the people who get hurt. All the Ukrainians are getting all messed up, whatever side you're on over there. The Russian people have been cut off from their Facebook accounts. What are they going to do? Right? But now they're getting kicked off from communications from everybody else in the world. Unless you have, unless you've been preparing a little bit and you understand how things like VPNs work. And you've kind of been paying attention to the world narrative. And again, to prove that everybody's on the same side, right? Anybody who was involved in this stuff right here, any country, they're all on the same team. That's how you know. If you ever question if they're part of the World Economic Forum, New World Order, the Federal Reserve System, the IMF, right? This is where their money came from. Anybody who is involved in that, they're bought and paid for. All right? So this is going to be interesting to see how this works. China got in the way earlier, was able to get all the DNS and companies to do what they needed to have their own internet, which is tightly controlled. You can't do much in China without the government knowing, and we know Russia is there already. But the thing is, most people don't know and don't seem to care that the U.S. and every other government also does. They just have a bigger smile on their face and more propaganda on TVs and social media than Russia and China combined. So yes, every country I'm sure has an internet kill switch. All right. Now for most people, that's maybe not a big deal. As long as you can get to Facebook, you probably don't care. But you understand what this does is that without America being the reserve currency, your standard of living goes to zero. All right? It goes to zero because America does not produce anything at all. And even if you're a skilled laborer like a plumber or something who actually would have regular work, if nobody has a job that pays anything and we're all living like China people, you're not going to be doing much better because no one's going to be able to afford to pay you. Right? And without the internet and global communications and things, you cannot even escape to somebody else's economy, like Mexico has been doing for the last 50 years, coming to America to send their American dollars back to Mexico. They could do this because of crossing borders and doing, where you have one regime, you can escape the regime and go to a different regime. Well, let's see. We got our fence put up in America. We got our internet kill switches. Gas is going to be $6 a gallon. Housing, okay, the average house in America right now is $350,000, and that data is 4 to 5 months old. Mortgage interest rates have gone up 2.25% in the last 2 months, which means what you had like a 2.5% mortgage interest rate is now a 4.5% mortgage interest rate. And that's if you have a ton of credit and you can actually put the down payment. If you don't have the down payment, you got to do the double mortgage thing. You're looking a lot more than that. So a $350,000 house costs you like $2 million over 30 years. No one's going to be able to afford a house. So when I say, if you didn't have your preparations put in and you didn't move to where you want to be, your time is up. Wherever you are, you're likely going to be staying until whatever is going to happen with this stuff happens. We'll see how Russia pulls out of the global internet, but with companies tripping over themselves to destroy the lives the lives of million innocent Russian citizens in the way they're pulling projects and services right up to Visa. Oh yeah, Visa and MasterCard cut off access to Russia too. The damage is done. Russia may as well do it now, or millions of computer smartphones and everything in between will be useless. Right, so they, like I said, it's all a plan. Sanctions is one thing to, like I say, not do trade or to have a exceptionally high tariff for people that we don't like, right? Like, we understand that your people need food. So we'll sell you food, but it's going to be at the we don't like you rate, not at the friendly neighborly rate, right? Because that is the right thing to do. Not starve out a country's people because what the government is doing. That's can be considered a war crime, The bombing of innocent people. Well, what if you're starving out the innocent people, the non-combatant people? God bless America. Bombing people for 50 years. No one cares. I can't even tell you how many wars that I've been around for. They never stop in America. Never. Always itching to get into the next war. And the Americans just love it. Yeah. Kick ass and chew bubble gum, wave my American flag. While I'm driving around asking for my freedoms back. So, this is a huge deal. Okay? Because this means that there is going to be cyber attacks nonstop that are going to affect all sorts of everything. And when someone's power gets turned off and they can't watch Game of Thrones on their Netflix, they're going to do anything, tell the government they need to fix it, and they'll give up all their rights to get their Netflix back. Okay? Give them all up. Just give me my television. Give me my internet. That's what's coming. That is guaranteed. It's one of those maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But in the not too distant future. Not too distant future. But the rate things are going, it could be tomorrow. It could be tomorrow. When China, let me explain. China is already allied with Russia. They already have backdoor deals going that are supposed to be illegal because when you transact in oil, you're supposed to only be able to use Federal Reserve dollars, American dollars, and they're transacting in whatever they feel like, rubles or the wands or whatever. But they're neighbors. Well, everybody agreed to sanction Russia and not buy or sell anything to them and kick them off of SWIFT and this and that and the other thing. Except, guess who? Oh, Russia has an excess of oil? Hi, I'm China. I don't have very much oil. I'll buy all your oil. China's buying all of Russia's oil. Do you know who's affected by Russia not exporting their oil? Basically, Europe signed its death warrant. Okay? Because the EU and Britain in those places, Britain, of course, is an island, but they get a lot of their oil from Russia. And I know right now, being in the crypto mining business, that over there, they're paying about 30 cents a kilowatt hour, depending on the little European shithole you happen to live in. 30 cents a kilowatt hour for their electricity. As in comparison, in the Midwest in America, you pay 8 to 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So they pay 3 times as much. And over there, they because of global warming and carbon footprints, they won't build any power plants. Okay? They won't build any. They want renewable energy, like solar. That works great in Britain where it's cloudy all the time. But we're going to do all renewable energy. That's not a plan. That's not a planned operation where these countries are completely dependent on their enemies. Yes. They're completely dependent on Russian oil. But to be a good NATO and the IMF told them to say they're not buying and selling with Russia. So instead of 30 cents per kilowatt hour, they're paying 70 cents a kilowatt hour. Basically, they can't buy food if they want their television because 70 cents a kilowatt hour, they're going to be burning a lot of candles. And it's not the people's fault. It's the government. And it's not really the government. It's the IMF. They say, Putin, you're going to do this. America, you're going to do this. Canada, you're doing that. Britain, you're doing this. Okay? And all of those people at the top that have all of the power in these countries to do these things, They're not affected by any of the decisions or any of the policies or any of the legislation or any of the anything. It's the people that live in those countries. And what do the people do? They get in their trucks and wave a flag and beg for their rights back. That's what the people do. This is a big problem. So Russia, eventually, America is going to make a big deal with China about you shouldn't be buying Russia's oil, right? That's what'll be in the newspaper article, and how we'll have sanctions on China then, right? That's what it's going to be. Biden will put sanctions on China because they're a bad actor. Obviously, then that's the go-ahead for China to join up with Russia. And let me say, Russia is not wanting for any resource. Okay? They're not wanting for anything. They got all the same stuff America's got. And then when you have China in there, who's the manufacturing supreme powerhouse that it is, you got the same kind of setup. Except instead of a Western free, right, society like has been going on for 30 years, so they say, right, between the Western ideals going out throughout the country. Now we're going to have the Eastern philosophy go out through the country, which is a two-class system where you're a filthy, rich, stinking bastard, or you're a peasant who owns nothing and you hate it. You own nothing and you hate it. And everyone who goes around wanting to die all the time. But as long as they keep the vodka ration coming every week, like they do in Russia, everyone seems to manage to get by. But, you can buy a gallon of gas and wave your flag and drive your truck around. And just let them do it, because that's what it's looking like. That's what it's looking like. So I want to go back to Cooties now that that's done with, right? And now that the PSYOP is over, not legislation, but the court cases are actually coming out where they're getting, some things are getting some press, and some court cases are now allowed to proceed because the operation is over. And none of these companies that were involved, like Pfizer and Johnson, they're not going to survive any of it, but they don't care. Their job is done. They're going to get probably sued out of existence, but they don't care. They don't care. It's all for the greater good on their side, right? It doesn't matter what happens to the company. They'll make a new stack of papers, rename the business to something else, and keep carrying on and carrying on and carrying on. So what was released, actually, that I have here is the official documents. The old Pfizer, it was actually, worldwide safety report prepared by Pfizer. They had something like 5,000 or 15,000 documents that people were saying under Freedom of Information to request from Pfizer, and some judge said, well, they'll release it after 150 years, right? Because they claim like proprietariness or something like that. And obviously, when the PSYOP that was declared the PSYOP is over, then another judge saw it and said, oh, no, that's obviously wrong, and it has to be released in 100 days. And so this information is gradually coming out. And but these are the goodies, all right? So what I have here is the section of this report that talks about what the side effects are. If you want to go out and get your cooties shot, okay? As you can see, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. I might link this in the thing. I might not. It's not very hard to find for people who want to do their own research, as you should have always be doing. So this is the summary and conclusion. Review of available data for this cumulative experience confirms it confirms a favorable benefit. This confirms a favorable benefit. Remember now, 99.97% recovery rate for cooties. Now I remember that number because the very first cooties video that I did a year and a half ago, guys, was the same number. was the same number. The death rate of 0.003%. That's 99.97 survivable. So this is the review that says that, oh yes, this is confirms a favorable benefit risk balance for their cooties. I have to take a drink, wet my whistle for this. So all you people, all you meatheads out there who got your euthanasia, for whatever reason it may be, I didn't want to wear the mask. Well, then don't wear the mask. Then if I get the shot, I don't have to wear it. Okay? I hope you got all your boosters. Every last one of them. It doesn't take black and white, written in stone by the company who manufactures these things to tell you that it's bad for you and it will probably kill you. All right. Now, this is not misinformation. This is information prepared by the company that manufactures it. Lists of adverse events of special interest. List of adverse events of special interest. This is all one list, guys. This is all one list. All of these look like a big block of text, like someone's writing a paragraph. No, this is a list. Okay? Deletion syndrome. Hydroxychlorotic acidica, mesylodies, increased acoustic neuritis, acquired inhibitor deficiency, acquired epidermologist dysplasia, acquired epileptic aphasia, acute cutaneous lupus. It gives you lupus. Hey, great. These are listed out individually. All the things your little jab gets you. By the way, out in Europe, they had to admit to the fact that 9 out of 10 people who supposedly died with cooties were all fully vaccinated. So, as we look through here, we'll read out some of the ones I found particularly interesting if I can find them. Let's see. Oh, here we go. This is one. Anti-HLA antibody test positive. Antibody test positive. Anti-insulin antibody increased. Anti-insulin antibody positive. Somewhere in here it talks about AIDS. It gives you AIDS. Just a side effect. Oh, it's nothing to worry. I'm sure it'll have a pill to protect me from the AIDS. That's probably in the booster. The booster protects me from the AIDS. Anti-nuclear antibody increased. Anti-nuclear antibody positive. Anti-phospholipid antibodies. Some kind of blood problems is what that generally means. Arrhythmia. Oh boy. Arterial bypass occlusion. This is where we get into all our stuff that's killing all these athletes with heart failure. Aortic thrombosis. All right, guys. Aortic thrombosis. Thrombosis is a nice way to say blood clots. Blood clots. Aortic thrombosis. Application site thrombosis. Arterial bypass thrombosis. Thrombosis. Well, you get a little arthritis in there. That's not too bad. Asthma. That's not too bad. Asymptomatic Cooties 19. It tells you right here the side effect. The side effect of the jab they give you is Cooties 19. It tells you right here in their own paper. The jab gives it to you. More thrombosis. We're going to give you some anemia. Some more arthritis, blistering, colitis, autoimmune. Oh, here we go. Autoimmune disorder. Autoimmune encephalopathy, autoimmune endocrine disorder, autoimmune entropy, autoimmune eye disorder, autoimmune hemolytic anemia. You know this is AIDS, guys? That's what that is. Okay. Myocarditis. Oh. Autoimmune. Autoinflammation with infantile pancreatitis. Here's where we're killing the babies in the womb. Yep. More thrombosis. Blood alkalines all messed up. Blood pressure, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That's page 2, guys. There's 9 pages. We're approaching a time here, people, just so you're aware, that I won't be able to talk about any of this stuff. We're going to be locked down and be getting knocks on my doors. Okay? Lymph node inflation, cardiac embolism. There we go. Heart's exploding. Heart's exploding. Double-stranded DNA, antibody positive. There we go. Definitely. Encephalitis, of course. Endocrine disorder. Just which kind of disorder? Endocrine. All of them. Let's see. Uh-oh. Side effect is exposure to communicable disease. Exposure to SARS. Huh. Huh. Uh-oh. What do we have here? Febrile Felty syndrome, femoral artery embolism, fibrillary. We get in here where it talks about knowing about all of the problems that you have with pregnant people. All on their list. Hemorrhoidic pneumonia. That sounds interesting. Oh, yes. Thought you people out there would really appreciate this one. You'll really appreciate this one. So you get your jab, you don't have to wear your mask anymore, but now you got herpes. Permanently. So I guess those people who wouldn't date anybody who had gotten a jab, probably on the right track with that one. Dermatitis, basically all the kinds that, you don't want, right? You don't want to have herpes on your face and on your junk and in your mouth, and you don't want that. No. And it looks like just about every variant is covered in there, so they really mixed up that cocktail for you. Yeah. This would be like the check number 1 on those dating sites, right? Jabbed or unjabbed. There'll be lawsuits for people who misrepresented themselves as an unjabbed person and gave somebody herpes. Liver function test decreased, liver function test increased, liver induration, liver injury, liver iron concentration abnormal. Yeah, that's your anemia. Lupus, getting a little bit of lupus. Some magic syndrome. Oh man, magnetic resonance imaging, liver abnormal. All sorts of interesting stuff. Can you imagine the amount of people they had to test this stuff on and all the things that they could tell? These are things that are guaranteed to be from their shot. Because they're the ones doing the study. They know exactly the things they're looking for with the before and the after of everybody they jabbed and all the animals they jabbed and all the things they tested it on. That's what they found. I got my flag and a gallon of gas. I'm going to go drive around Washington. What are we at? Page 6. We still got a few more pages, guys. We still got a few more pages. I know this is going to be a long video. A lot of people don't want to hear it because, you know, it's true. Pancreatitis. That's a bad one. That'll take you out in about 4 months, guys. Had your shot, and a few months later, you just fall over, and they go, "Oh, he had pancreatic cancer." That could go quick. That's one of the cancers out there that I've never seen any evidence that anyone's ever been able to cure. And there are a lot of other ones you can cure pretty easily. But there are ones that you can have. You could have like lung cancer for a long time. You know, you can have breast cancer for a long time. Gives you time to treat it, and you can alkalize your body and do all these different treatments and things. Pancreatic cancer, man, it takes you out in like 4 to 6 months. That sucks. People who get their jab and they fall over in 4 months, you wouldn't even necessarily associate it with the jab. That is my favorite part. One of them. Here's all the stuff that it gives you. SARS. Shrinking lung syndrome. Better get them on the ventilator. Gives you epilepsy. That's nice. Temporal lobe epilepsy. Thrombolephaleitis, migraines. That's from having blood clot in your head. A little bit more serious than a migraine. Toxic epidermal necrolysis. That's when your body thinks that one of your organs is dead tissue, I think. That kind of necrolysis is your body attacking itself because either your organ dies or your body thinks it's dead. Toxic leukoencephalopathy. That doesn't sound very good. Oh, and that's the last page. I didn't find the part that was all about talking about exactly what it does to umbilical cords. Yeah. So that's what your loving government forced people to take. But by all means, grab your flag and you go ask for your rights. Don't stick your neck out too far. You don't want to actually, have to pay for any of your freedoms. Just wave a flag, man. You're doing your part. Doing your part. And, I don't mean to be down so bad on people that are actually doing something, right? It's better than doing nothing, I guess. But what became of it, number one, and number two, people are like, well, they're doing it, so I don't have to do it because they're already there doing it. So I don't have to do anything. And if I donate money to them, they're probably going to close my bank account. And I'm not sticking my neck out that far. I ain't sticking my neck out. Game of Thrones is on. I got to keep my $10 an hour job. I got a wife and kids to feed. It saddens me, man. Because I actually care. And I guess some people would say that I don't have nothing to lose, so I can go ahead and run my mouth and do all this stuff. But my goal is to like actually have stuff to lose, but actually have enough to where I can protect myself. That obviously is not going to happen. I'm probably going to be stuck here for the rest of my flipping life. If the way things go, the way I see them go, and they happen in a timeline that's way faster than the 10-year mark. This stuff with the tag teaming with Russia and China is going to be happening within this year. Okay. After Russia closes down its internet to the United States and the rest of the world, there's going to be cyber attacks. There just is. It's going to affect the financial system because they're trying to reset it. They want to reset it. We need a CBDC. I want to talk a little bit about one of our favorite New World Order paradises out there in Australia. Hi, Jason. So this is just a generic article where they're having some floods out there, and you can show that there's been a lot of chemtrailing where they looks like they apparently caused a bunch of flooding in areas that don't normally flood. And as a result of that, the power grid was knocked out in these areas, the rural areas, and the internet was knocked out in these areas. And they told the people who live there that their houses are wiped out. They said, you can't move back and clean up your house. You have to go move to the city now because we're not rebuilding any of this area that flooded because we're going to call it a hazardous zone where it's always going to keep flooding there, so people aren't allowed to build there anymore. So all these people who probably, maybe own their properties and things there, now it's declared by the government that they no longer own it. And they have to go live somewhere else because it's too dangerous for them to live there. It's too dangerous. If you want to go back there and pitch a tent, you can pitch a tent, but we're not going to have any power for you, and we're not going to have any internet for you. That's in Australia. This is their little test bed. Their little test bed of how they're going to be running the world. Okay? And this article I thought was interesting because it shows you the psyop that's going on in Australia, and it's much like what's going on in America. Now, they have all sorts of wickedness going on in Australia with their mandates, and the cops are beating the ever-living piss out of everybody. Nobody is doing anything. They're just putting up with it. Oh, we're going to protest and beg the government for their rights. It says down here, consumer confidence in Australia falls amid floods and the Ukraine war. So the article is like, all this crap going on in Australia, and because the stock market is down apparently because the Australians are really concerned about the Ukraine war. What do Australians have to do in any war? It's the same machine with the same propaganda to the same countries. They're under the same psyop. This exact same thing. What does Australia give ever living F out of anything having to do with Ukraine? Now, America is the world's policeman. We go in there, we're the leg breaker for the IMF and the New World Order. So yeah, Americans going to have their propaganda like that, but Australia? How many Australians are going to get drafted to go fight in Russia? Go fight with the Ukrainian freedom fighters over there? None. But they're under the same playbook. They're like really hard and heavy with propaganda and all this stuff. And we can see this article happens to be on Cooties, so we'll take a look at what their official stuff is. So the ACT reports 0 deaths, 838 cases. NSW reports 9 deaths, 13,000 cases. Queensland reports 13 deaths, 4,800 cases. Tasmania, 0 deaths. Victoria, 9 deaths out of 7,000. Western Australia, 0 deaths out of 3594. These are their numbers on their propaganda machine, guys. Does it sound like it's really, 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 really bad? No. See, they tell you the truth. Well, I would doubt that these cases are 0 because Cooties doesn't exist. But they had a little positive phony test, right? Even with their positive phony test, nobody's dying. And on the subject of Australia, naked drugged 8 gallons of blood weekly. Britney Spears details systematic abuse and servitude and cryptic post. Why am I talking about Britney Spears? Because this girl here is a Disney kid. So is like Justin Bieber and a lot of these other, the hot to trot little Satan worshiper girls. Miley Cyrus is another one. These people are all Disney kids who are raised in these really high power families and are used as like part of their rituals and all this stuff. Okay. She finally figured out what was going on. And at some point, she got a tweet out that talked about, describing why she was so crazy, or why she is currently so crazy. And it has to do with, like, her not getting a day off from work. And she describes her routine. It was all about not getting a day off to enjoy herself. And she goes through, like, 10 hours a day. And then I've got her handlers and her medical people that she's got to deal with 10 hours a day, talking about getting transfusions for like 8 gallons of blood a week or something like this, and just weird stuff. And to her, she probably thinks that a lot of other people have to do this. Like she's relating to people. No. But this is how sick and twisted these people who are messing around with what's going on in Australia and America and Canada and all the Western world. And Russia. They have different plans for places like Russia and China. In her tweet, though, she posted 3 pictures. One of them was this one, which is the Vatican, inside the Vatican. And then she posted one of the Star of David for Israel. And the last one was a map of Australia. Says to me that everything's run by the Catholic Church. And, the CIA organization that does their bidding is this Mossad. And where they set up shop and are hanging out is New Zealand and Australia. New Zealand, I think, is the IMF headquarters. World Economic Forum. I don't know. New Zealand's like their playground. Just like Colorado with the international airport is the playground of them in America. That's their setup there. But that was just interesting. The people who think that this is all just random coincidence and I'm grasping at straws with these ideas that I have. It's like, no. It's just out there. It's just out there. It takes research. It takes time to look at this stuff. Now we're going to talk about fun stuff. A little bit. I don't know that I'm going to play that. No, I think I've been going long enough. I'm not going to cover Flat Earth. I am going to say this, though. Before you can understand anything, people out there who maybe have watched me be like, gee, I guess Max was kind of right about the Cooties thing. Everything he said kind of came true. Because it has. And his old Max is right about that. That happened. Supply chains did shut down. Max is right. Prices are going up. They're 25-30% on my food. You got to get flat earth stuff, guys. Before you can grasp how big the minds are controlled, you have to get it. Understand that you're never going to have your stuff straight until you get out of this psychosis loop and believing that everything the government plants into your head, and it's not really the government, you call it the government, but it's these demons, these vampires, stealing all your stuff, including your mind and your sanity, and any ounce of peace that you ever had in your life. That's who these people are. Okay? Step 1 is dealing with the flat earth thing. Step 1. A lot of the things that I talked about here with going on in Ukraine and Russia and what will be happening in the future, for certain. Maybe even a couple of months. We don't know. Things are moving pretty quick. With Flat Earth, you can learn a couple of things and prove it to yourself in a half hour by going outside and walking around, going to a tall building, going to a mountain, figuring out when you see things in the distance how far away they actually are and whether or not you should be able to see them behind an earth curve or not. Once you understand the earth is flat, all of the scales fall off your eyes and you can see where everyone's out there trying to get you. And you can see their little scams and how everything is just perfectly set up, you know. Like it wasn't America stupid for sending its manufacturing to China? Oh, greedy Americans. Oh, how stupid. That was the plan, obviously. 99% of all computer chips are built in Taiwan. Taiwan was owned by America up until a few years ago when it transferred over to China because of a treaty. Sort of. It's still a sovereign nation, but China's in charge of protecting it or whatever. China wants to take it over completely. Do you really think that it was an oversight that all of our computer chips are produced in one location? You think that was just an oversight? They've had 20 years now to build factories and manufacturing plants in America to make computer chips because computer chips are pretty important for everything that we do. We have plenty of sand. Silicon Valley. Not making computer chips in Silicon Valley. It's by design, guys. Absolutely 100% planned. Oh, it was an accident we sent all our manufacturing over there. Those greedy corporations. Wasn't an accident. Everything, from what I can tell, is 100% set off to where America, plain and simple, does not matter to the rest of the world at this point. They really don't. The only reason America was important was because they have Federal Reserve dollars. And America could spend them all over the world. But if America doesn't have Federal Reserve dollars and people aren't using Federal Reserve dollars, nobody needs America. I mean, America's got nice steel, really, really high quality oil gasoline, really, really nice stuff, but we don't have any manufacturing. We don't even have enough to service America. We can't be selling that anywhere else. Haven't been able to build an oil refinery in like 20 years in America because of Obama. They just keep rebuilding and adding on to the same oil rigs by the same monopoly companies like Coke that have owned them for 100 years. The same companies. You can't build any new ones. We're going to make sure those old companies that are fully entrenched in the monopoly can add on to theirs, but nobody can build a new one. We'll invest in wind and solar power. Worked out great for Texas. It's all by accident, though, guys. It's all by accidents. Politicians are dumb, and the world is just crazy. Go back to Netflix. Go back to Netflix. Worry about 5G some more. And other crap, right? That's really not that important, right? Everyone's got all kinds of shit to worry about that's really not that important. You know, obviously don't watch television, but have it in your, now is the time. You're out of time. You're out of time. They're going to be cutting the internet. They're going to be cutting the power. They're going to be doing these things. It's going to be an ongoing Cold War with Russia for the unforeseeable future. And then when China gets involved with it, we're really going to have a show. All right, it's been long enough. I'll probably do another video because I do want to talk about Flat Earth. I really like Dave. I really like Dave Weiss. There is a very good documentary out called Flatten the Curve. I wonder if I have it up over here. No, I don't. It's called Flatten the Curve, though, and it's on Odyssey. And it's essentially, if anyone who's checked out my Flat Earth channel, it's all of the scientific proof that I showed about people when they do their jobs, they require the Earth to be flat. Anybody who flies a plane, if they don't know the Earth is flat, they're not a very good pilot. I would never trust somebody who doesn't understand what flying a plane flat and level means and doesn't understand how a gyroscope works. Because if you're not a flat earther and a pilot, you're an idiot. Granted, somebody probably never proposed the question to some of these pilots. But if you ask them, a pilot, how a gyroscope works, and then they go and you say, well, then the Earth is flat, they'd have to say yes. If they don't, I don't know, I wouldn't get on that plane. The Navy, line of sight, radar, radio waves. All of these things are line of sight that prove the Earth is flat. All of these things that people depend on for building buildings, for building bridges, depends on the Earth being flat. You cannot make a pane of glass without the Earth being flat and water resting flat. Sea level. All of these things. It's right in your face. But I did want to play this one. I'll save that for another video, where Dave is talking about extraterrestrials and what that really means. He goes around to different radio stations, and they all make fun of him for a bit. And he gets out some pretty good info. Is this actually it? No, this one here is the Soviet cosmonaut. They asked him about the Earth. He says no one's ever been to space, and the Earth is flat. Okay. Lots of cool stuff. And we're going to end on a note, because I'm not going to cover the flat Earth stuff. We're going to end on Bitcoin being $41,765. Now, I'll go ahead and toot my own horn. Bitcoin was $35,000 roughly when I made my video that said it's urgent that people, if you're going to get into Bitcoin and you're going to invest, this is the bottom. Or at very, 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 very close to the bottom at 35,000. Since that time, if you would have bought and then sold again, you could have sold up around 43 or 44,000 and made a cool 10-15%, or 20% actually, right? 35 to 40. Yeah, almost 30%. And it did fall back down, but notice, guys, it did not fall. The lowest it fell was 37.5, which is still above 35 last I checked. All right. Again, now Bitcoin just shot up because apparently somebody bought a couple $1 million worth of Bitcoin, I guess, when you see those spikes. I wonder if it's Russia. Who knows? Or Canada. Or maybe some Americans are on the ball and buying. Now, these things where people are shutting down their internets between countries, that's not for the oligarchs. That's not for the Elon Musks. That's not for Bezos. That's for you. You're not going to be able to go to all these other places on the internet. But you know what will? Bitcoin. You cannot stop Bitcoin. Everybody knows it. They just don't want to bring any attention to it because they want it cheap. We want our Bitcoin down there at $40,000 until we've got it all. And when we've got it all, it can go ahead and go be worth 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 million a coin. Which if you're running governments with it, it has to be. What do I see for the future of investing? Man, honestly, if it's anything other than Bitcoin, I wouldn't be investing in anything. They want to really crash the economy, have their wars going, their Cold War going. The only thing that's going to actually go up in value that I see is going to be the military contractors. And you go do that, you're going to make money. You want to invest in Lockheed Martin? You want to invest in these different areas? I would not be investing in commodities and oil and stuff right now because the price has already shot up. You missed the boat. You need to invest in that stuff before the war starts. What is still cheap? Bitcoin. And if you can pick up Bitcoin at this point, anything below 40,000, you're doing pretty good. All right? Sure, it could go down to 35 again. Sure. Who knows? But the idea is to, if you got $1,000, you buy $100 today, you wait a few days. Oh, it dipped a little bit. Buy another $100. You wait a few days. Oh, well, it's up a little bit. I'll buy $100 more. You wait a few days or weeks or months or whatever time frame you want. So that way you average out at a lower price over time. That's the way to do it. I don't know what to say about investing either at this point, too, because you really got to be concerned about centralized exchanges. All right. And, you know, it's going to be not too soon where I'm not going to say anything about any investments, anything, because everything is too centralized. Even in the case of cryptocurrencies, the cryptocurrencies that aren't decentralized really tip their hat when MetaMask, which is the largest wallet for the Internet Explorer, the largest web browser based thing, one of their payment providers and payment transactors, they don't like Russia and they boycotted Russia, so people had their crypto on MetaMask and they can't transact in it. They can't use their crypto because apparently MetaMask has a centralized company that they're affiliated with. Nobody knew that until today or a couple of days ago. Okay? Certain exchanges like Coinbase are cutting off Russian accounts. Obviously, they're centralized. But Ethereum, which is a major player, it's the number 2 cryptocurrency out there, 100% centralized. All of these layer 2 providers on Ethereum all cut off the Putin there. You don't want anything centralized in your currency. You want to have full control over your stuff with no intermediary. And that is only Bitcoin. Okay? Only Bitcoin. That's what we have with that. I have rambled on long enough and gotten myself on far too many lists. And like I said, it's very close to the time where I wouldn't be able to say anything if I made a video anyway. Very close to that time. With that, guys, we are going to be out of here. Take care. God bless. Everybody get your shit together. It's going to be a wild year in 2022. That, we're out of here.